Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's session, Migrate from ALM Quality Center. I will present Joel in a few minutes. Yes, I am, but a little bit, I'll start with that. I'll start with introducing myself, actually, and some housekeeping, a little bit about PractiTest, and then hand over to the session that you signed up and you're interested at. So a little bit of housekeeping, as I mentioned. Hi, first of all, my name is Noah. I manage the marketing here at PractiTest, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. This session is being recorded in case you will need to drop or you'd like to share it with one of your coworkers. We will share this recording by an email that will follow up probably tomorrow, hopefully. So that's one. At any point, second item, but at any point in time, should you have questions, please feel free to write them in the Q&A chat or raise your hand and we will address them hopefully on time, or if needed on personal level further on a further session later on. So that's a little bit of housekeeping. A little bit about PractiTest for those of you who are not familiar with who we are, and this is something we would like to change, of course. So we've been around for quite some time, founded in 2008 as a SaaS solution. Some might, when I say that, sometimes people argue that there was no SaaS back in the days, but actually there was, and this is how PractiTest was founded, part of our innovation as a perception. And as we understand that some people back in the day, even more than now, were concerned about security. We adhere to any relevant security or compliance regulation, ISO, SOC, GDPR, of course. So that's a little bit about that part of our business. We currently have customers in more than 55 countries around the globe. You can see a subsample of them. We work cross industries. This is just an example. I assume you know some of the names here, but those are not inclusive. And last but not least, about who we are, a little bit about what some analysts are saying about us. So one thing is that I'll share on the follow-up email the Forrester Total Economic Impact Report that was conducted on PractiTest, showing an ROI of 312%. So that's one thing worth mentioning. And the other thing, if you are familiar with Gartner Hype Cycle, we recently mentioned on their Hype Cycle source software engineering and for banking industries. So just two small details about who we are. And without further ado, let me hand over and introduce Joel.
Hello. Oh, no, it's me. Okay. So first of all, can I take ownership of the presentation? I think it'll be easier. Now you're muted, so that's even weirder. So hopefully. Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Joel. Some people know me by Joel Montvelisky. And I am a tester. I have been doing testing for 27 years. I started back in the day on the...
Joel, just to mention, you now should be able to share. So please feel free to
sharing.
do so.
I'm not?
I'm not seeing your screen, so let's just double check that.
How about now? Okay, if anyone can actually see a screen with me on the screen, anyone can raise their hands. And that way I'll know that you're seeing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and people, the important people can see your screen. That's what matters. Thank you.
That's good. In any case, I'm gonna lower hands. In any case, so I'm Joel, and I am one of PractiTest co-founders. We started this actually pretty nice company. I really like it. Because of a reason. I was a tester back in the day, and I remember that, again, open freely, there were just a couple of solutions back in the day. And I remember trying to buy Quality Center in my first organization and coming to my boss, and he told me, why do you need to pay so much for something you can actually manage in Excel? And it took me really, really long time to explain to him back in the day why I needed it, and I loved the system, and I'll get to that in a second. But there were not too many systems. They were very, very expensive, and they were very, very heavy. And we started PractiTest with the idea of making a test management solution that would be for the more, let's say, up-and-coming days. And I will talk about it in a couple of minutes. But I've been a tester. I love doing testing. I didn't start my career as a tester. I was supposed to be an industrial engineer. But somewhere along the lines, I fell in love with testing and became a tester, being a test manager, director, VP. Back in the day, I used to have even a podcast and stuff like that. And I liked speaking in some of the more, let's say, international conferences, even though I haven't done it for the last 2 years. I'm going to start doing it again next year. And a consultant, and within PractiTest, I have maybe the coolest job in the company, because other than being the co-founder, and people, it's very hard for them to tell you no, I'm also the chief product officer, which means that I get to talk with many, many, many of our customers, understand what they like, what they don't like, and where they're abusing the system. And whenever we see a place where they're abusing the system, that's where we take the ideas for new features. And so it's very, very nice all the time to talk to testers and understand how stuff is coming along. I've worked in a lot of industries and a lot of companies. I worked in Israel, mostly in the US. And I also used to work for a company called Mercury Interactive. And for the rest of those dinosaurs in the call, then you know that Mercury Interactive is a company who actually came up with Quality Center. And I'll speak to that in a second. I used to manage the testing team for Test Director and Quality Center, and Windrunner and QTP and Xrunner back in the day. Two other projects that I also very much like, close to my heart. One of them is the online test conference. It's coming up in November. It's back before the days where things were online, we decided to make a conference that would be open for the masses. And I talked to a lot of my tester friends, and we managed to get like the very cool testers in the world, the James Bahan, Lisa Crispin, and Janet Gregory's in the world, just to come and speak for free and to take part of that. So we still do it, and it's coming up in November. So please go ahead and onlinetest.conf. And another project that I'm doing, I think for the last 11 years, with my friend Lalit Kumar from Tea Time with Testers, is the State of Testing Survey, the original State of Testing Survey, I need to say. We even trademarked it, where the idea is to keep track on what's going on in the industry. And so understanding where we are, where we've been, and what is the vector of where we're going. I'm also going to talk about a couple of things around that. So enough about me. Let's actually talk here about what we came to talk about. Then, yes, I work for PractiTest. Yes, PractiTest is basically my baby. I have 3 kids and PractiTest and a dog. But we ALM, we love Quality Center. By the way, people know it as ALM. Some people know it as Quality Center. Some people know it as ALM Quality Center. When I started back in the day, it was around 2000. It was Test Director. And then, trivial fact, it started as Test Director, and then we got a new marketing guy, and he said, no, we need to sell for more money than what we're selling. We need to update the prices. And he said, no one will pay that much money for Test Director. Let's make it Quality Center, and let's increase the prices. So that's why it has been having a lot of names. And why do we love Quality Center? The first part is simple. Back in the day, these guys, and if you want to know who, the person's name is called Aryeh Kogan. He was the person who came up with the idea of Quality Center. He was working in Windrunner back in the day. They invented the traditional test management methodology. You have requirements. Remember, we're talking back in the day of waterfall. You have requirements, you generate your test cases, you generate your sets, you run your tests, you generate bugs, you have reports. Ooh-ah. And then we linked it over to Windrunner and QTP and BPT and stuff like that. But why do we love them? They were the original ones. Before anyone else, these guys wrote the book on that. So let's give them credit for that. They have an end-to-end management process, and they do cover, let's say, the traditional testing process. And if you work in a very traditional way, it's simple, it works. Some might say, some might not. They're known, reliable, and trusted. They have a very, very long history. And there's a saying that no one was ever fired for bringing over IBM into their companies. No one will ever be fired for bringing Quality Center. Yes, it's expensive, but come on, it's risk-free. Everyone uses it. And the last one, if you are working within the open text tools, if you're working with UFT, QTP or whatever, or LoadRunner, or Performance Center, stuff like that, they have a very tight and very good integration with that. I know, I was part of the team who developed that. So all of those are very good reasons why people love ALM, why people love Quality Center. And again, you shouldn't be feeling bad because of it. Okay, it's a very, very trustworthy decision. I read an article that says that about 85% of people who have a Volvo love their Volvos. If you like a Volvo, have a Volvo and drive a Volvo. It's a great car. But not everyone wants a Volvo, and not everyone needs a Volvo. So why should you switch? And we're going to be talking today about that. But if we look at it from 20,000 feet, mostly because of three main reasons. First of all, testing has been evolving. There has been a test revolution. We are switching to Agile. We have a lot more automation. We have a lot more different tools. And we need to accommodate for other type of working, not necessarily in the office. Back in the day when Quality Center started, and even though they have a online version right now, it's not real cloud. It was basically something that they try to adapt to that. When you work with a real cloud solution, you get better flexibility, scalability, and obviously you reduce costs. And if we go over to costs, then the license models of HP OpenText, I don't know who's managing that anymore, OpenText right now, they're always focused on let's work with the large organizations where we can actually charge a lot of money. If you're not one of those organizations who likes spending a lot of money, then maybe you will want to reconsider that. And again, guys, I love Quality Center. I have a very nice place in my heart. I have a lot of friends working for that company, but it's not a tool for everyone. So let's start talking about very, very concretely, which are the 6 main challenges when you're working with the ALM Quality Center. And to put it bluntly, if you need reasons why to convince people, why do you need to switch over, start taking notes. This will be a very interesting session for that. Now, let's start with a reality check. Quality Center was built in the 90s, okay? 1990s. It was a long, long time ago. Now, ever since the 90s, a lot has happened. Back in the 90s, waterfall was the norm. We could work in projects that were 9 months long, 12 months long, 16, 18 months long, and everyone was okay. But ever since we moved over to Agile, right now we're adapting DevOps, and everything's happening faster, everything's happening lighter. Not really sure that the Volvo that you had back then is the car that you need today. And if we talk about the state of testing survey, I mentioned that the last one that we run showed that 92% of organizations are following Agile or Agile-like methodology. So if you are part of those 92%, you might need a tool that is a little bit more adapted to whatever you're doing, okay? What does it mean? First of all, the biggest challenge that we see with customers were, and again, this is a talk from people who migrated to us or who evaluated us or people who we know and love and trust. The first part is the very, very big difference between the on-premise software and a real cloud solution. And again, I want to emphasize that you can take an on-prem solution and put it on AWS or on Azure or whatever, and it will be cloud, but it's not necessarily cloud because the architecture is not cloud and even the pricing is not cloud. When you're working on on-premise software, and most of Quality Center customers are still working on-prem, then you install and maintain the service in your organization. That might sound good, but it's actually very, very hard. Why? Because first of all, you need to put a lot of costs on hardware and software, and it's not a one-time deal because your hardware will need to be upgraded, your software will need to be upgraded, your database servers, your OSs and stuff like that. So you need to put a lot of money up front and then all the time a lot of money. Whereas when you go with cloud solutions like, in this case, PractiTest, obviously it's more of a pay-as-you-go. It's very, very complex to scale when needed when you have it on-prem because of licenses, machines, stuff like that. All of a sudden, your server starts getting a little bit slower, so it's more complex to do it. It's more expensive to do it. Whereas companies like PractiTest, where we do measure number of users in the millions, not the hundreds or thousands, it's literally millions, then it's very, very easy for us to scale. Now, when you're working on-prem, usually you work within your network, or you need to have like a secure network to connect. Whereas in cloud solutions, you start working securely anywhere from the internet, okay? Security, it's now a must. And we know how to do it cheaply because we need to know how to do it, but it's still secure. Everything is, again, state-of-the-art security and everything state-of-the-art maintained, regardless if you're working from China, India, New Zealand, Japan, or I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I was in Tulum, Mexico, in the middle of the beach, and I was connected to the system and everything was working correctly. Now, obviously, if you're working with internally, you need to have an IT team. We love our IT guys, but we know that sometimes they're a little bit on the heavy side and annoying. And again, they're not as responsive as when you're working with a vendor and you can tell them, hey guys, I'm paying you money, go ahead and give us that stuff. Obviously, even the SLA, if you think about the SLA that we have as a SaaS solution, that it's 99.97%, it's way higher than any SLA that you will get internally from your company. Okay, so even that risk goes down. And again, compliance and security, as I was mentioning, we do it as part of our day-to-day business. And it's not something that has to be done by the vendor. So it's really, really easy, especially when you start comparing on-prem to cloud solution. This was not the case maybe 15 years ago, but today it's simpler, cheaper, and better to work on cloud. So much so that a lot of our customers, our companies will say, oh, we have an initiative to move to SaaS. Okay, and we're very happy for that because we know how to manage SaaS. The second challenge, it's a little bit more about that fact that what I was saying, that Quality Center was built in the 90s. And so a lot of the way that testing was done back then, it was leading edge back then, but it's not leading edge right now, okay? What am I talking about? Again, countless examples. But to give you 3 specific points, BDD testing, okay? The ability to work with Gherkin scripts and translate them and integrate, I don't know, Cucumber, SpecFlow, even Robot Framework, they have their own BDD instead. BDD, it's not new, but it's strong and getting stronger. The collaboration that you get all over, where your POs can write in Gherkin and developers all of a sudden understand what you're doing and you can use it to test, it's actually very, very good. It's clear. Everyone knows how to work with it. Not every system, wink, wink, Quality Center supports that, whereas there are solutions like PractiTest that does, again, use it out of the box. Exploratory testing, again, not new. Session-based testing, James Bach has been talking about it for the last 20 years or more, but it's not supported in every system. Okay, PractiTest, for example, understands, based on what our customers have been doing for the last 10 years or so, that you have your scripted test and you have your exploratory test, and you end up merging them in order to have better coverage. Now that you have automation, a lot of people are saying, yes, all of my scripted is becoming automated, but we still do a lot of exploratory tests in order to work and to fill in the gaps. And you do need to document it. It's not as simple as saying, oh yeah, someone run it and you don't have documentation. Again, it's not the way that people work right now. And I'm not even talking about the latest trends. And I have a presentation that I'm actually recording for a session in Colombia for next month. Oh, I didn't mention that, but I'm Costa Rican. So if you want to ask questions in Spanish, go ahead and do it. So I'm doing a presentation. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be in Spanish or English. No, I still need to think about that. But it's around AI-driven test management. So AI is not new. We've had AI on automation for ages, okay? Self-healing test cases and visual detection test cases and stuff like that on automation. But right now, AI is getting to test management. How can we prioritize our test cases? Because we have a lot of testing and too little time. How can we orchestrate the process? Which parts are I should run for my automation, which part from our management? How can we simplify test creation by using, again, machine learning and natural language in order to create test cases? All of that are technologies that solutions like PractiTest can actually provide you, that if you're working with ALM, you're not even looking for them because, again, you don't even have an expectation of that being supported in there. So you can start expecting more and obviously cutting edge stuff from newer systems in that case. The third challenge, and if you are working with ALM, if you have been working with Quality Center for some years, I'm pretty sure that it will be very, very clear what I'm talking about. And I'm talking here about the test plan tree conundrum. Any test plan tree that goes above, and again, plug your number here, 200 test cases, 300 test cases, 500 test cases, becomes unmanageable. Off the record is not new. I remember when I said before, I used to be the QA manager for Quality Center. Our customers loved us, just like you might love the system today. But when we used to go to them, they said, if there's one thing that we hate is the test plan tree, the test tree even. Why? Because it's very, very hard to manage it. Because, you know, historically it grows. And we started with this hierarchy organization, but then we modified our hierarchies and the way that we're working. So we had this test case in here and this test case in here. And it's very, very hard to manage a system that is so strict and so static as a folder tree. Simple actions become very time consuming. I remember between releases, we used to spend anywhere between 3 and 7 days of the whole team reorganizing the test tree, finding out stuff, looking for things, how to manage, how to modify that. Whether you are going to accept it or not, you have duplicate test cases because you were not able to find the test and you wrote it twice, or tests that are not tested because, oh, I did not find that test in my test tree. So there's a lot of mistesting artifacts, and it is very, very heavy, and you get lost in an ocean of data. Okay, the test plan tree, the idea that if you have above 50 test cases, you need to manage them using folders or folder trees. It is the way a lot of tools work. It's extremely antiquated, and it really, really doesn't work. Now, how do we do it? Well, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We just modified it a little bit. We have a concept in PractiTest called filter trees or hierarchical filters, where using the same data that you have, again, this is just like a very simple example. Using the same data, we're going to be able to find the test cases in different parts of the structure. We create a tree based on filters, very easy to do, very easy to find. And then we use the metadata of your test cases to organize that. It's simple, but it's magical. Okay, all of a sudden we created a very, very unique and revolutionary way to manage your data. And I do recommend that, you know what? Don't take my word for it. You can go to practice.com and start working with an evaluation and play with that. Okay, I really love it. And it's game changer in that sense. You're going to be able to find everything that you want faster because you can generate not one folder structure, not one hierarchical structure, but multiple hierarchical structures at a time. If you have anywhere between 500 and 5 million test cases, it's really easy to manage that data in there. Lost test cases or duplications goes down almost to zero. Again, not zero. We're never going to say that, but when we talk to our customers, it's incredible to see the change in there. And it's a lot more flexible, and it really allows you to grow and scale. Okay, I cannot talk more about that without Noah being mad at me. But if there's one thing that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else, is the dynamic data organization. I really recommend that you take a look into that. And if you still have questions, you'll see my email at the end of the presentation. Talk to me. I'll be more than happy to show. Not pictures of my kids on the beach, but I will be happy to show you how the filter tree is actually working practically. So that is really, really game changing. Going back to other stuff. And again, we all know that even if back in the day, we used to work on one-stop shops, and yeah, we took QC for everything from requirements management all the way to issue tracking. That is not real anymore. Okay, by every organization, every second organization has Jira. A lot of teams are right now switching over to Azure DevOps. The amount of people working with GitHub, GitLab, ClickUp, it's just going up and up and up. I don't see a lot of Bugzilla or Mantis anymore, but maybe there are still some people in there, pivotal trackers, stuff like that. Everyone is working with other bug trackers, okay? Sometimes even more than one. The question is, how are you able to do it? People who are working with, again, other ticketing systems with Quality Center find it really awkward, okay? Quality Center was very good. ALM was very good internally. There are some plugins that might work, but it's not as much as you actually want to do it. When you're working within OpenText, it's magical, but once you're working outside of OpenText, it's less magical than so. And so people find it a lot harder to work with additional tools. So systems like PractiTest, that's the reality of the game. We know that we live with both of them, and so we already have two-way syncs, not only with Jira. The one with Jira is actually amazing, but we have with Azure DevOps, with ClickUp, with all the rest, Pivotal Tracker even, that allows you to have real two-way synchronization between the systems. You're able to have better collaboration between your testers and your developers and the rest of your stakeholders, because everyone, more importantly, you have the best of both worlds. You have a dedicated test management system. It's not a plugin for Jira. We all know that plugins for Jira are very limited. Okay, if you have 5 testers, 7 testers, go ahead, work with X-Ray. Great tool for 5 testers, 3 testers, 7 testers. If you have a test organization that is a little bit more complex, you do want to have a dedicated test management system. You do know that you need a serious tool for your serious work. But on the other hand, all the rest of your team will continue to work with Jira. We do support that. In a nutshell, start testing. You know what? Take the user stories from Jira, automatically import them into PractiTest, generate test cases from them, execute runs from them, and when you find bugs, report bugs directly over to Jira. The stuff will be synchronized. You can still work with your user stories in PractiTest. You can still work with your bugs in Jira, but that information will be synchronized with whatever's happening in practice in Jira all the time. So really take a look at it. And again, I'm pretty sure that most of you already have one of these. You don't need to pay a price for that. We can solve that for you. Now, the same goes for automation tools. Going back to the state of testing, we run a survey, and it's amazing, but teams have anywhere between 5 and 12 different automation tools. Why? Because we have a couple for unit tests, and we have one for API testing, and we have obviously for load testing, and we have 2 or 3 for functional testing, because we have for BDD, and we have for, again, anything that we have in there. And if you are going to start thinking about GitLab or Jenkins, if, again, you're working with that, there's quite a lot of different tools in there. If you work with OpenText tools, no one will give you better support than OpenText itself. But if you're working with any of this, then the integration that OpenText will provide you will be very, very limited. There is no one-size-fits-all for what we're doing, but the way that practice actually works is with a concept that we call test orchestration, where the idea is that regardless of what tool you're going to be using, our open approach is not one approach. You actually have 3 approaches, 4 if you count differently, allows you to either send information to PractiTest using our REST APIs, or just upload your results from XML files into Practice, and we can do it, or we can even execute test cases remotely if you want. Okay, so it's a concept that allows you, to integrate all of your test cases. And again, the concept of test orchestration is a very, very strong one. It's not only about how can you orchestrate all your automation, how can you orchestrate also with your manual test cases? How do you know if you have over coverage or under coverage when you start looking at all of those factors together? Start testing blindly, okay? It doesn't, as automation becomes more and more of a mainstream tool, then it is something that you will need to have internally as well. So go ahead and check us out even for that. The last one that I wanted to talk about here, and again, I do respect your time, so we're going to be finishing the next 10 minutes or so. It's costs. Quality Center is expensive because their licenses are expensive. Not only that, but you're going to be paying a very steep maintenance cost, and that's the way that they work. If you choose not to pay maintenance, great, but you don't have updates, you don't have support, you don't have anything for that. And if you look into that, it's even bigger because they try to encourage you, not to say force you, to work with other OpenText ecosystem entities in there. So the cost of working with Quality Center can be reduced up to 40% in some cases if you switch to systems such as PractiTest, and again, other of the systems that you have in there. So no one will complain to you because you want to reduce costs by switching over to another system. So take a look into that. Now, I'm pretty sure that I know what you're saying, right? Okay, all is good and fine. I know why I should be migrating, but I don't have the time right now to migrate. I'm going to start losing data when I start migrating. It's going to be very, very risky. You might say, no, I work on a regular environment and I need to have history of everything that I have in there. So the cost, I will still need to maintain Quality Center, at least with some license, for 6 years or so. Yeah, but no. There is a way to migrate into Quality Center. Now, up to now, yes. So you could take, let's say, the Excel plugin for Quality Center and just export all the data, and it will be raw data, and try to import it again. You would end up losing attachments, history, comments, run history, all of that in there. And it was a very big blocker. A lot of companies didn't dare to switch over because there was not a good migration path. But fortunately, we solved that for you. We generated a migration tool that basically handles the whole process. Yes, you will need to come and maybe clean a little bit of the data, map the data, but let's be real, you want to do that anyway if you're working with a legacy system. But we will be able to migrate absolutely everything. Now, I do mean it when I say everything. Run history, there. Entity history, like who did all the changes, there. Historical users, there. Custom fields, system fields, attachments, there. Everything will be there. Relationships, there. even your folder structure that I mentioned, that it's very, very nasty because you're working with folders, we will be able to translate it into filters. How? Simple. We generated a migration tool. How did we generate a migration tool? Because we know Quality Center and we know PractiTest. Okay? So you don't need to do that. And not only that, but the migration process will be managed by us. It's not a tool that you have. We will be working with you to guide you through it. Yes, we will be helping you to export the data, to massage the data to make it work better, and then to re-import it. We'll work with your team on the methodology to support that. It's not only about migrating data, it's about migrating process, about training. All of that, it's something that, trust me, or don't trust me, we have been doing it for years. Okay, and again, we're happy to do it. There's no real excuse why not to move over. Now, you might say, well, yeah, all good and fine, but I'm working on a secure environment. No problem. We're ISO 27001 compliant, we're SOC 2 compliant, we're GDPR compliant, and we're a AWS technology partner in that. Okay, there's quite a lot even of references if you really need to talk to someone. We've done it. It's not a beta product. It's something that we have been doing for the last number of years. So if you want to take a look into that, go ahead and do it. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to keep my promise and try to release everyone a little bit early. There is a good replacement for Quality Center, and there is a simple migration path. It's not a free migration path, but it's relatively simple. Trust me, I've done it a lot of times already. A lot of people were saying with Quality Center because there was not good alternative. Well, people, there is one right now. It's called PractiTest. It does support all your current needs and even the future needs of your organization. If you're going to have more automation, if you will need AI support, if you will be growing, if you will need to work with external users, it's already supported. And again, it's a very neat product that we continue supporting all the time and increasing all the time. It will help you to cope with the complexity of your process. Yes, you have a complex process. That is why up to now you have been working with Quality Center. If you were not having a complex process, you would be working with something else. So PractiTest will help you to cope with that complexity. The learning curve of your teams, because of the way that PractiTest has been built, it's easy. If you're coming with Quality Center, there will be some name changes, but most of the moving parts will remain the same. Okay, so your team won't need to spend a lot of time learning a new tool. You will be able to integrate those bug trackers that your organization has been using for a long time. It might be Jira, it might be Azure DevOps, it might be something else. Trust us, we have that covered for you, and it's a pretty good integration that will help you to work with both tools. Automation. Most of the tools that you're using right now, you're grinding your teeth whenever you need to import into Quality Center. Not anymore. You're going to be having a lot different ways of bringing that information over to PractiTest. Trust us, it will be simpler. Why? Because there's no one-size-fits-all for automation. You shouldn't need to work with one approach only. That's why we're bringing more than one approach. And last but not least, you will have a migration path that will safeguard all your existing data, not part of it, not only the test library or the test plan. We will bring everything that you had in there, okay? So there's no real reason to stay within Quality Center unless you really want to and you have a lot of money and you don't care that it's a little bit hard to manage the data in it and it doesn't integrate with your bug trackers and your automation is kind of there. If you're like that, great, thank you for your time. If not, talk to us, okay? We can do a 1-hour consultation with someone from our team. Nothing to do, we will just show you what we have in there. And after that, you can decide how do you want to move forward. Okay, so any questions that you have, I'll be happy to answer them at this point. And if not, then I think Noah will be posting them how they can get that consultation with us.
On the chat.
Oh, it is on that chat over there.
I will also be sharing this with the follow-up email and the recording for the people who signed up. I know I got some people replying that they will not be able to attend live, so this will also be shared along. If you're watching the recording, look for that in the email link you have just received.
So anyone, any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If you say, yeah, but I don't like speaking live when a lot of people are working there, contact us. Say that Joel told him that you would talk to them, and trust me, I will talk to you. No worries about that. And we can do it in Spanish if you prefer. No hay problema. Okay. No, I think that we're done for today.
We are done. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll be looking forward to seeing you in our future events. Even if now is not the right time to migrate, I do want to add this. We understand that some of you are locked within contracts. We know this maintenance contract do happen to have a stiff timeline for adjustment. You are welcome to have a look and see. But if timing isn't right, you're still more than welcome to join us. As Joel mentioned, one to the online test conf that is happening on November, also to other ongoing events that we are hosting. We are always happy to keep in touch with everyone within the industry, to hear your insights, to get your inputs. And we are here for you when the time is right. And now there's no better time than now. And with that said, thank you all for your time. Thank you, Joel. Have a good
Bye,
morning.
everyone. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.